Ingemar Johansson. You don't see performances like that anymore, Steve Bunt.
No, we tend not to let our fights go on like that these days. We tend to make sure the two guys are facing each other. But when you look at that, I mean, you heard what Jimmy Cannon wrote, and you even heard Harry's truth there and honesty, saying I had seen him beat people like Henry Cooper. I had seen him. I knew how good he was, and yet I didn't give him any chance. It's really hard to imagine how much of an underdog he was, because he wasn't just an underdog, let's say, like Buster Douglas was when he went out to Japan to fight Mike Tyson. He was a ridiculed underdog. Buster Douglas was just considered, another heavyweight who wouldn't win. But he was ridiculed. There was no chance he could win. He shouldn't have even been sharing the ring. That was the feeling. Now, they did meet 2 more times. Bizarrely, their rematch was a year later. I mean, you just can't get your head round these delays. And in that particular fight, Ingo ended up getting properly sparked. Now, the third fight, which was the following year, again, I think there was a 9-month break. That's fairly controversial because it was in Florida, not in New York, like the previous 2. And something bizarre happened, that a rule was introduced for a standing 8 count. And in the opening round, when Ingo was this time not even given, you think he was given no chance in the first fight, having been knocked spark out in the rematch, there wasn't even a suggestion he had even a slight chance. Yet he managed to drop Patterson twice in the first round. And on both occasions, without a doubt, the 8 count, the mandatory 8 count, helped Patterson survive. So much so that he dropped Ingo close to the end of the first round. So think about this trilogy of fights. It's a sensational trilogy of fights. When we've had to put up with some of the stuff that John Ruiz has done over the last few, and I shouldn't give John Ruiz too much stick, but some of the trilogies and double and rematches we've seen, these 2 guys, and they made fortunes for their promoters. They generated unbelievable cash, unbelievable audiences through the door, and just sensational. And what's also interesting, and just finally, what I think is really interesting, is that between Ingemar Johansson in 1959 and Vitaly Klitschko now, there are only 5 boxers in the middle. You can link them with 5 boxers. So it's that close. And the answer to my question earlier on, and the winning prize was it was a 2-week holiday for a whole family in the Caribbean. No one's managed to win it, which is handy because we hadn't quite finalised it. The oldest surviving challenger for a heavyweight title isn't Henry Cooper, as someone suggested, isn't Brian London, as someone else suggested. It's actually Pete Raidmaker. Now, the interesting thing about Raidmaker, in his first fight, having won the Olympic title, he fought Floyd Patterson and still went about 8 rounds. And I think that's enough sermonising tonight and enough history, my friend.
Not at all. Ingemar Johansson, who passed away aged 76 on the 31st of January. Great career, the big Swede. Joe